Have you been dying to get into Kontakt, but you have been scared off by the scripting side of it? I know I certainly was at the beginning. Creating your own UI requires you to actually learn a whole new computer language called KSP, and that can be very, very frightening at the beginning. Never fear though, because today I'm actually giving you a little bit of a Christmas present from my channel to you, a free script that you can download and you can use for your library. Check the link below for the download, but here we go, let's dive in and take a look at what it can do. Hey, my name is Steve, composer, engineer and lecturer, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to this special episode because it is a time for gifts and I'm giving you something for free. It's not a free library, it's not a free sort of sample thing, it's actually something to help you create your own library, and that is a free script to make the UI that you have been struggling to make. Scripting is a challenge. It's quite hard. It's an entirely new language. And I've spent loads of videos on this channel looking into it, and I'm sure I'll spend loads more looking into it further as well with you all. So definitely subscribe for that if you're interested in finding out more. But this script is actually designed to get you up and running with your own Kontakt sample library without you having to worry about scripting at all. I've built a script where all you have to do is change a few little numbers at the very top of the script to make it the way that you want it to customize it a little bit. But once you're done, it is going to create the entire script for you. This is the script, and as I scroll through, it has some instructions at the top, a few numbers that you need to change, and then the rest you do not need to worry about. It is all taken care of, and it is all adaptive, ready to go for your library. I've commented everything so that it's really clear what you need to adjust. There's plenty of details in this section here at the top, and it is completely customizable. And it can turn your library from this to this with just a few clicks and a copy and paste. So if you want to grab this script, dive down into the description, you can find a link and you can download it from my website. That website is actually hosting a Kontakt knowledge base. Lots of articles written by me for you to help you script your interface yourself. In that article, you will actually see a list of instructions. And if you want to find out more about how to implement this script, keep watching this video as I walk you through the whole thing. Let's dive in and take a look. So what we are going to do today is dive in and recreate Melosaur, a library I released towards the beginning of this year, using this script. So I've just gone in here and created a new instrument. If I open up the group layer here, I have got 4 groups. This is just like my Melosaur library that I created at the beginning of the year. And inside each of these groups, I've just got a simple sample, nothing too dramatic, just a simple sample in each of these that's stretched over the whole playable 88 key range. As soon as we play a chord, we should get something quite nice. Really easy, and it's got basically 4 layers that are all playing at once. The thing is though, when you click on the spanner, this is usually where our UI will go, or our GUI, something that we can use to control the instrument and some of the effects, such as the volume of those different groups, from an easy to use interface at the front of the screen. Now, what this usually involves is going across to our script editor and creating a script. And this is where we have spent a lot of time on this channel diving into different ways that you can script up your interface. This can be really scary the very first time that you do it though, so I thought I'd share a basic script that hopefully 9 out of 10 times will do you for your first instrument. Like, let's think about your first instrument for a moment. Normally it's only a few groups, maybe up to about 8 different layers that you've sampled, different textures you want to blend in. You might want to add a low pass or a high pass. And you're probably looking for delay and maybe some reverb. That's usually it to begin with. So this script is ready to go with all of those things. You just have to follow the instructions and make sure they're in the right place, and it's ready to go. If we take a look at the script over here, it's got some information on the default build. And this is basically to let you know that this script will work if all of these things are the same in your instrument. So for example, it's saying that you can use groups and you can have up to 8 different groups. They're basically typically layers or mics. These aren't round robins. This isn't a script looking to cater for that at all. It's just basically different layers that you're wanting to merge together. It has controls for attack and release as well, so we'll be able to add on an AHDSR envelope. It also has a low pass filter, a delay, and a reverb. Now, if I follow these prompts, and I'm just going to create the library as per this default build, the script will basically work straight off the bat. And let's take a look and see what that looks like. So if I was going to do that, first of all, I want to edit all groups and go down to the amplifier section and add our AHDSR envelope. Now, because I've got edit all groups on, it's put it on every single one of these groups. It's always there. And it's always referencing the same AHDSR envelope down here. So for instance, with edit all groups still turned on, I can turn up the sustain. And that would be a good idea, to leave the sustain at 100% so that we're really only going to be adjusting the attack and the release. Turning off edit all groups now we're moving on to our effects. In the first slot, I will be adding in a filter. I'm going to use a low pass filter and a ladder LP4. It has a cutoff and a resonance control, something that's quite nice for this script. And down here in the send effects, I'm going to come into delay and add replica delay. And I'm also going to add my choice of reverb, which I always quite like convolution reverb. And I could choose a factory preset. Maybe let's take a look at something like, I don't know, perhaps Hall Concert. Now I can adjust some of these controls, for instance, so if I want to just have the strings to begin with, let's turn the brass and brass tape down. So now I've only got strings pad and strings tape playing. I'm going to adjust the cutoff as well, because that's a little bit too much at the beginning there. That's sounding quite nice now. I'm liking where that filter is. I'm liking the strings by themselves with the tape textures blended in there. And we've got our replica delay and reverb on there pretty high as well. Now it is basically ready to go. As soon as I've loaded it up that way, the script is going to work perfectly for you. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to open up the script editor and have that open here. If you don't see the white space, just jump into edit. It's also a good idea if you jump along to the final slot. It's best practice to put your UI in the final scripting slot, and it's a good idea to get into the habit of that early on. Jump into edit, and we're going to be copying this whole script and pasting it here and hitting apply. There you go. You can already see some layers already laying out there. And if I click on the spanner, you can see the full interface there. So what we're looking at here is basically 4 different volume controls for the different groups that I've got. So layer 1 being the strings and the strings tape for layer 3, and then the 2 brass patches for layer 2 and 4. That's all under this layer mixers section. And then the attack and release control is available as well. We've also got a low pass, our cutoff and resonance controls there, and our delay and reverb controls as well. And what's really cool is that this script actually reads the output already. So you can see here that the layer 2 and 4 are turned down because I changed that. The cutoff is set to where I changed it to. Everything is set perfectly to whatever I've set at the moment. So it is ready to go, which is fantastic. Now it's a bit boring at the moment. There is just a gray background. You can change that color though if you're wanting to just have a neutral color background. When we look at the script, after you dive down under the README section, there are these constants and variables that are all set. And this is basically the section that you can update and change. And I've got comments here telling you what to set it to based on whatever you're changing. At the top here, we've got some general UI ones. So if I want to change the color, I can do that here. Now, the way that the color sort of works is it uses hex codes to do this. Hex codes are basically 6-character codes. They're web codes for colors, and they're very, very useful. The format that we're looking for here is that we want that web code there, but we also want it to start with a 9 and end with an H. So we want to start with a 9, put the hex code in, and then end with an H. For example, white is just 6 Fs. So let's put that now in there. So in that case, I want to replace this 767676 with just 6 Fs. Now if I hit apply, we'll go back to our interface. We can see it's now white. We've already made our first adjustment to the instrument to make it what we want it to be. Now let's say that you actually just want a background in there, your own background image. You can do this very easily. You can knock something up really easily inside programs like Photoshop, Illustrator, or Affinity Photo and Designer, which are the programs that I use, and then you can just add that in as an instrument background. If we take a look at the script here, you can see that the height is 350 pixels by 900 pixels wide. That's currently my height and width for my interface. So that means when we're looking at this interface, it is 900 wide by 350 high. Now this 350 high is only this section here. You then actually have to add on 68 pixels above. So if you wanted to do an image that covered this whole background, we'd be looking for 418 in total, which is 350 plus 68. So if I did a background at 418 high by 900 pixels wide and throw that in here, we'll be ready to go. For instance, let's click on the spanner here, jump into instrument options, and you can see instrument wallpaper, and I just go find my file. Here's my file there. Let's add that one in. So you can see it added there under instrument wallpaper, so I'll close that now. We'll jump over to the spanner and there's our background. Now here's the thing, if you want a bigger background, you can. You don't have to be limited to what I've done. I've built the flexibility into this script so you can adjust the height really easily without having to dive through any code. So in the scripting section under the general UI stuff, we have our UI height and width. Now I mentioned before that it's 418 in total, but 350 is what I've got here. But I actually created a background that's 30 pixels higher because there's something at the bottom that we're not seeing right now. So if I just change this to 380, hit apply, we can see our interface just grew there a little bit. And then when we click on the spanner, we can go back to the instrument and now you can see this little bit that's down here. The thing is though, the controls don't look like they're in the right position. But don't worry because I've created something for that as well. Looking back at this UI constants here, you've got a Y offset and an X offset. Now these are basically applied to all of the controls. So if you add 20 here, it's actually going to offset all the Y controls down by 20 pixels. And if you want to take them up, you can just go -20 and it would reduce it by 20 pixels, going up a little bit higher. So I'm going to bring them down. I'm just going to pop in my 20 pixels there, hit apply. And when we go back to our spanner, now we can see our controls are positioned nicely there with a bit of a gap above and a bit of a gap below. So they're a little bit further down. So you can move it up, down, left and right and just do it using those offset controls. Now let's customize this a little bit further. For a start, some of our labels are a little bit generic. Layer 1, layer 2 doesn't sound like a very friendly thing here, so let's dive in and change up some of that. Towards the bottom of this section, you have group names. So we have 4 groups that are active and you can have a total of 8 groups. If I want to, I can just change the layer 1 name to something else. So let's say strings. Let's change the second one there to brass. And let's change this third one here to S tape for our strings tape and B tape for our brass tape. Let's hit apply and you can see across the top here, they've all adjusted. There's also layer mixers here, a label. So if I go down to my label names section, let's update that. Let's say textures mixer, hit apply. Done. All of these constants are worked through the rest of the code that I've created. So that way you just update the constant and then anywhere that name needed to be declared or changed, it will change it for you. So it makes it very, very easy and you don't have to worry about any of the coding. You just have to enter in the details to be whatever you want them to be. Now, the great thing about the attack and release controls is as long as you have on every group an AHDSR, these will work automatically for as many of the 8 groups as you have. So we've been listening to them being pretty snappy at the moment. But let's change the attack time there. Giving it a nice gentle immersion into the sound. It's quite nice there. So working straight away. And we can adjust the release as well. If we want it to snap off quickly, we can definitely do that too. Moving over to the low pass filter, it again is all ready to go because we've already set up our low pass. So we can increase the resonance and sweep through our filter if we want. Really cool sound. I love that kind of filter sweep with resonance there. And of course our delay and reverb. So I'm just going to pull back the mix of those a little bit so we can hear more of the dry signal. And let's speed up the delay and make it repeat a little bit longer. Again, sounding gorgeous, and they're all working perfectly, already set up if you followed that default script. What if you want to change it though? What if you want the other type of delay, or you want it in a different location, or you want a high pass filter instead of a low pass filter? Let's check out some of the controls that I built in so that you can change that yourself. Okay, so let's say for instance, I want to bypass this filter and I want to add in a high pass filter, and I'm just going to pick this top one. So this changes things a little bit. First of all, it's now in a different slot. It's not in this first instrument insert effect slot, it's in the next one over. It also only has a cutoff knob, it doesn't have a resonance knob. So let's take a look at how we can adapt the script to that. So here we have some filter constants and we've got our filter present. So this is whether we want it to be on or off. If I didn't want any filter, like I didn't have a filter and I didn't want a filter, I could just set that to 0, hit apply, and my filter controls disappear. And that's the same for the delay and reverb as well. So you've got that delay present and reverb present. So if you don't want something, just pop in a 0, takes it out, done. We will put that back though, because we definitely want that. Now the filter location at the moment is set to 1 because we're saying we're placing a number of 1 to 8 that corresponds to the slot number that is actually where the filter is stored. Our new high pass filter though is on slot 2. So I'm just going to change that to slot 2, hit apply, and we can see that control has updated there to reflect what the high pass filter is controlling. And this resonance control is just not used at all by the high pass filter. That just doesn't have one on this particular model. Some definitely do, but this one doesn't. So I'm going to set the res present, so whether the resonance knob is present or not, to 0. Hit apply, and it adjusts both my label and my control to remove that resonance and leave just the cutoff if I want. So really useful. Just like that, we've got now a new type of filter. I quite like the old filter though, so I'm just going to change it back. Okay, what if we want to change the delay type and we want to move it from a send effect to an insert effect? We can do that. So the script here is looking for whether delay is on or off, just like our filter, but it's also looking to see if the delay is stored on an insert effect. At the moment, it currently isn't. And we've got locale as well for location, the slot location there. And the delay type is, if we're choosing replica, we set to delay 1. If we're choosing legacy, we actually set to 2. So let's change this up. I'm going to come down to my send effects, and I'm going to bypass this replica one for a moment. And in the third slot here, I'm going to add a new type of delay called legacy delay. It has the same controls that we've been using, this wet dry knob for mix, feedback for the number of repeats, and the time for the distance between each repeat. But now we're going to be putting it in the insert effect in slot number 3. So we need to make some adjustments to our code. So let's come back up. So is the delay present? Yep, it definitely is. So we need those controls, but it's now in an insert slot. So we need to adjust that one to 1. Delay locale, it's actually in the 3rd slot. So let's put that in there. And the delay type is actually the legacy delay. So let's pop in 2. Let's hit apply and see what we have. Now nothing changes in the way that it's set up, but now instead of controlling the other one, we're now controlling something a little bit different. Quite a nice effect. That delay is now, because it's in an insert, actually being fed into the reverb, which is another advantage of having the insert be where the delay is. But you can see you can easily change it to that legacy delay if you didn't want the full replica delay. It's really easy to do with just a couple of changes of numbers in the script. And in terms of the reverb, you don't actually even need to do any massive changes. All you need to do is make sure that it is on the slot you say it's on, but otherwise you set it to whatever reverb you want because they all have an output mix knob, so it's really easy. So you can see here the same sort of thing, reverb present, yes, where is it located, slot 2 in this case, and whether it's an insert or it's a send. So if you do pop a reverb on the insert, you definitely can change that as well. So that's how you can adjust the whole script based on what you want. You can hide controls, you can show controls, you can change the names of labels, you can change the names of groups. And this script is actually adaptive based on how many groups you've got. So if you add a few more layers later, check out what happens. Let's hide our script editor for a moment and let's just add a few more groups. Just going to go create an empty group and go to the full 8 groups. Now, if we click the spanner, we can only see 4 at the moment, but let's hit this little exclamation mark so that it reruns the script again. And there we have it. We have 4 more controls being added. So it depends on how many groups you have. If you have 5, there'll be 5 controls. 2, there'll be 2 controls. Just the one control for you. But you can adjust it based on the number of groups, and you don't have to put a number in anywhere. It just reads however many groups you've got and creates those controls for you. Now the great thing is, once you're done, you can save that library and that library is ready to go, ready to distribute to Pianobook or wherever you'd like to share it. I would love it if you leave the top part of the script in there just so that I get a little bit of credit for writing the script, but it's up to you ultimately. I've given you this for free, so do what you would like to with it. But if you could leave those details in there, that would be smashing. Now, once you're ready to go and you're happy with the way that your instrument is sounding and the way it's looking and interacting, you would come up to the save icon and save the edited instrument. You have to do this while you're in the behind the scenes spanner mode. Once you've found your location, you give it a name. and you'd save it as patch and samples. This allows you to save both the patch and all the samples, and it won't be an absolute path. So that means that you can pick up the whole folder that this patch and samples is in and share it around with anyone, and they'll be able to play it on their computer with no problems. So there you have it. You have a script. That is my gift to you at this time. So happy Christmas. I hope that that enables you to start your Kontakt sampling journey if you haven't already. If scripting is scaring you, this might be the answer. If you end up using this script, I'd love a comment below and maybe a link to your library if you ever post it to Pianobook. It would be wonderful to check some of them out. And if you've appreciated this script, I would also appreciate a like, and that would be fantastic. So there is my gift to you. Happy Christmas. Have a good rest of the year, and I will catch you in the next one.